to the Pinterest advertising module of the course. In this section, I'll be covering all things Pinterest advertising. And in case you don't already know me, hello, my name is Sumner Hobart. I am Ali Hobart's husband, and I'll be walking you through step-by-step through the Pinterest advertising section, which is more of my specialty. And I'm very excited to share all my knowledge with you. And in this module specifically, we'll be covering what makes Pinterest advertising unique from other platforms like Google Ads, Bing Ads, Facebook advertising, and other forms of digital advertising. How Pinterest ads work. In case you're a complete beginner, we have a lot of info to share here. So whether you're a complete beginner or already have some experience, I promise you're going to learn something valuable here in this module, or hopefully many things valuable in this module. Pinterest advertising and digital advertising terms defining and creating your advertising goals, which are extremely important before actually spending $1 on any form of advertising. What is the Pinterest conversion tag and how to install it on your website? Keyword match types explained, long-tail keyword research, and what long-tail keywords are, why they're so important for your campaigns, which they are. Setting up your overall campaign structure, and my recommendation for the best way to structure your campaigns. How to set up profitable pins, or pins that will ultimately generate profit to the best of their ability, which may be a little bit different from other pins that you've created. Setting up your first campaign and ad groups, everything step by step. You'll actually walk through my own account and set up campaigns with you. And lastly, optimizing those campaigns for even more profit and better results. Very excited. Probably a little bit even more here in the section. Of course, we'll be creating more videos in the future. Really excited to dive into this. I hope you are as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the first video. So what makes Pinterest advertising so unique and so advantageous? Well, there are many reasons, but I just want to cover 4 really important points about what makes Pinterest advertising different from other advertising platforms. And number 1 is inexpensive, or relatively inexpensive. Why? Anytime there's a newer advertising platform, which Pinterest is, compared to how long Facebook ads and Instagram ads have been around, for how long Google advertising and YouTube ads have been around, the longer a platform is around, right, the more and more people know about it, the more and more advertisers use the platform, and generally the more expensive that platform becomes because demand increases, and when demand increases, generally price also increases. Well, even today, Pinterest advertising is still a relatively new platform. It's not brand new completely, which is actually great in a lot of ways, but it still is fairly new. There aren't a ton of advertisers using the platform yet, which means that a lot of your cost per clicks and ultimately your result can be very inexpensive and very, very profitable on Pinterest compared to other platforms, which is really exciting. I'm excited to kind of share that with you. Number 2, compound results. Ali already kind of talked about this earlier on, but what's really interesting about Pinterest advertising specifically is essentially, and we'll go into detail actually in the next video about this and how this works, but you create a pin on Pinterest, and you can essentially, quote-unquote, boost that pin. You can pay Pinterest to show that pin to more of its users and very specific users who are likely interested in whatever you're advertising. And what happens is, obviously a percentage of people will ultimately click on this pin and ultimately reach the destination that you want to send them. But also a percentage of people who click on this pin will also save this pin. Or maybe they don't click, they just save this to their own board, which is really great because what happens is the longer you advertise on Pinterest, the more saves you'll likely get on the pins that you're advertising. And guess what? If you ever turn off that advertising, you're still going to get compound results and organic results because your pin has been saved to multiple boards. So all those places and all of those boards that your pin has been saved is going to get organic search results. Even if it's not a lot, it could be a little bit to quite a significant amount. That's another really fantastic aspect about Pinterest advertising is that you can run campaigns, turn off those campaigns, and then still get organic results, which is really awesome. I love Pinterest for a lot of reasons. This is one of those reasons. Number 3 is buying intent. Pinterest, as a social media platform, has a higher percentage of users who use the platform specifically with buying intent compared to any other social media platform. It's significantly more than Facebook, more than Google, than YouTube, in terms of the percentage of users who use the platform specifically to buy, which is really incredible. And ultimately, right, if we're ultimately trying to get sales, which I think most of us are, then this is a fantastic platform for you and really unique in that regard. And then number 4, again, this is 4 of many, is detailed targeting. So if you have any familiarity with Facebook ads or Google ads, and even if you don't, that's totally fine. For those of you who do, you know that with Facebook ads, you can target a very specific interest, demographic information, etc. And with Google ads, you can target specific keywords. Where with Pinterest, you can actually do both. You can target both specific keywords, which we'll talk about in depth, as well as specific interests. Okay, so you can actually target both keywords and interests. Again, it's kind of this mesh of a social media platform and a search engine, which makes for a really interesting and really effective advertising platform. And again, this may seem a little bit overwhelming, but just kind of want to lay the groundwork for why Pinterest advertising is so unique in case you are newer to the platform. I'm very excited to dive in and share some of my secrets with you. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the next video. Pinterest advertising. So what exactly is Pinterest advertising? What does it look like? Of course, we're going to be unpacking this throughout the entire module, but just to give you an overview to hopefully clarify and make sense of Pinterest advertising. Essentially, what you do with Pinterest advertising is you create a pin, just like you normally would. And then what you can do is essentially tell Pinterest, hey, Pinterest, I want to show this pin, and I'm willing to pay to show this pin to even more people with specific interests, demographics, keywords, etc. Okay, so what you do is you create a pin, and then you pay Pinterest to promote that pin. So Pinterest advertising is also known as Pinterest promoted pins. Again, that's a lot of P's, but Pinterest promoted pins, same thing with Pinterest advertising, and the Pinterest advertising is likely going to be evolving over time, and of course, I'll be updating the course accordingly. So it may include more than just promoted pins, but for right now, you create a pin, pay Pinterest to promote that pin to a very specific audience, and what they do is, you have the pin, it leads to a certain destination. In this case, in this example, we have, let's say, Canoe Paddles by REI. They create a pin, they promote the pin on Pinterest, someone sees the pin in their feed, a Pinterest user sees the pin in their feed, they think, oh, this is interesting, they click, and ultimately sends them to the destination. And in this case, right, let's say that REI is trying to ultimately sell canoe paddles, so this would lead maybe to their website for people to buy canoe paddles. Ultimately, you can use this to, if you want to people to download and buy your ebooks, to grow your email subscriber list, to drive traffic to your blog site, or whatever it might be. There's a lot of different objectives, and we're going to talk more about that. But in this example, very simple. You create a pin, that pin leads to a certain destination, then you pay Pinterest in order to show your pin to a very specific audience. That audience will see your pin, a percentage of them will click, and then a percentage of them will ultimately take an action that's valuable, whether that's buying, becoming an email subscriber, downloading your ebook, whatever that might be. Okay, reading your article. So there's a lot of different objectives that we'll kind of dive in and unpack later on. But that's just kind of an overview of how it works. And you may be thinking, okay, Sumner, I get the premise. What do you mean by targeting? Like, what is that going to look like, or how does that work? Okay, so as I said before in the previous video, you have a lot of different metrics that you can target. So one metric that you can target is category and subcategory on Pinterest. So when a Pinterest user creates their account, they have to specify to Pinterest what they're interested in. And then also, as they continue to use Pinterest more and more, Pinterest analyzes, and it does a really good job analyzing their interests. And essentially, what we can do is we can show our advertisement, right, or our promoted pin, specifically to people that are interested in certain categories and or subcategories. So in this case, if I'm REI, maybe I want to target people who are interested in the outdoor category. Aside from category, what we can also do is target specific keywords. So these are both separate. You can do one, you can do the other, you can do both. Okay. And how this works, very simple. Someone goes onto Pinterest, they log into Pinterest, they go to their account, they type in a term, let's say canoe paddle. We can tell Pinterest, hey Pinterest, when someone types in canoe paddle, we want our pin to be eligible to show up for that search query. And I'm going to explain what search query is and all these other terms later on, so don't feel confused. But someone types in a term into the Pinterest search bar, let's say canoe paddle, we tell Pinterest we want to show up, they type it in, our pin shows up, they're scrolling through, they see it, they're interested, they click, and then ultimately, hopefully, take an action that we want them to take after clicking on our pin, right? Very simple. They type in a keyword, they see our promoted pin, they click, and it goes that way. So you can target keywords, you can target categories, and then lastly, kind of mainly, you can also target by age, gender, language, and I'm sorry I'm covering up here, but also geographic location. Okay, so you can specify certain age groups that you want to target. Obviously, gender, if you want to really hone in on one specific gender, if your product or whatever you're trying to advertise is gender specific. Language, obviously, Pinterest is kind of born, and it's the biggest here in the United States, but it's fast growing all around the world, especially in Europe at the moment. So you can target a wide variety of other languages. Even if you're targeting within the United States, you can target very specific languages. And then along with that, also geographic location. There's other targeting that we'll dive into. And like I said, as the Pinterest advertising platform continues to evolve, things are likely to change, and there's going to likely be other ways you can target. But for right now, these are some of the most important. So we have different kind of demographic information, interests, as well as keywords that you can target. You create a pin, tell Pinterest, hey, I want to show this pin, and I'm willing to pay for this pin to be shown to a very specific audience. Your pin is shown. If people are interested in like your pin, which I'll show you how to create a pin that people are interested in, percentage will click and ultimately take an action, which will get you results. So you pay, and ultimately should see a return on your investment. We'll talk all about that, but hopefully this makes sense. And of course, if you have any questions about this video or any future topics that we cover, be sure to let me know in the comments below. But I'll be doing a lot of work, kind of laying the groundwork before we actually dive in to the advertising campaign manager account. So there's going to be a lot of videos before I actually get into Pinterest advertising. So just the actual Pinterest advertising account, I should say. So just keep that in mind. There's going to be a lot of videos before that, but you'll understand why I'm trying to lay the groundwork as best as possible. And like I said, though, if you do have any questions, let me know. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the next video. If you're new to Pinterest advertising or just digital marketing and digital advertising in general, there are some terms and some language that you need to understand that trips a lot of people up because it can seem very, very confusing, very complicated, but it really isn't. So we're going to go ahead and cover some of the most common terms used both in Pinterest advertising as well as digital advertising overall. So this won't just help you with Pinterest ads, but also if you plan to advertise anywhere else online, this is going to be helpful for you and hopefully make sense of some confusing terms you may have heard of before. So number one, these are all the terms that we're going to cover, including PPC, budget, max bids, impressions, CPC, conversions, CPA, and CTR. So a lot of C's, P's, and T's, and we're going to go ahead and get into all of these terms now and hopefully simplify and demystify for you. So number one is PPC. PPC stands for pay per click. Okay, and this represents so PPC is a platform. Okay, Pinterest is an example of a PPC platform. Bing is an example of a PPC platform. YouTube and Google are also examples of PPC or pay per click platforms. This is essentially where you pay every time someone clicks on your ad. Okay, so that's really kind of simplifying it. Okay, PPC are different platforms. Amazon is another example of a PPC platform. You pay every time someone clicks on your ad, and that's kind of how you ultimately kind of spend through your budget with these types of platforms. Okay, so PPC, pay per click, budget. Budget is the maximum amount of money that you're willing to spend per period. Okay, this could be the maximum amount you're willing to spend every day. You could say, hey Pinterest, I'm only willing to spend $10 a day on my advertising, $5 a day, $20 a day, $100 a day. It depends on obviously your objectives. So you'll have different budgets. So it could be daily budgets, your monthly budgets, your total campaign budget. You can tell Pinterest, hey, I only want to spend $100 on this campaign period, and once I spend $100, I want it to turn off. Okay, so it's just the maximum amount you're willing to spend total, kind of per period. So that's budget. Now there's bid, specifically maximum bid. Okay, so Pinterest advertising and these other PPC platforms, like I said, Google, Bing, Amazon, YouTube, work on what's called a bidding system. All right, remember, you pay every time someone clicks on your ad. Okay. And what happens is, you have your pin. You want to promote that pin to a very specific audience. Well, guess what? There's a lot of other people that also want to promote to the same audience that you do. You're competing with other people, whether you know it or not, or other advertisers, whether you know it or not. Okay. So the more competitive a certain keyword might be, or a certain target demographic or target audience might be, the higher your costs may be to basically reach and get those people to click on your ads, because there's more people competing for those, again, keywords, interests, etc. Okay, the more competitive, the more expensive. The less competitive, the less expensive. Okay, so again, Pinterest works on a bidding system. There are multiple advertisers, yourself included, who are all bidding and all trying to reach a similar type of audience. And again, the more competitive, the more expensive. The less competitive, generally, the less expensive your results are. And specifically, what a maximum bid is, it's the maximum amount you're willing to spend per click. So budget is the maximum amount you're willing to spend per period, right? So per total per day, per campaign lifetime, per month, whatever it is. That's budget. Bid is the maximum amount you're willing to spend per click. Okay, so remember, you're competing against other advertisers to try to reach a specific audience. And the more that you're willing to spend, the more likely you are to get more views, more impressions, more clicks on your ad, and more results. But at the same time, the more that you're willing to spend, the more that you likely will spend. So your cost will be higher, but also your results will be higher with the higher your bid is. And the lower your max bid is usually the less reach, the fewer clicks you will get, but it could be potentially more profitable, but you also get more results overall. So part of Pinterest advertising and advertising on other PPC platforms is trying to find that sweet spot, kind of that equilibrium between, I want to spend enough to get, some good results and get some good traction, clicks, views, sales, downloads, whatever that might be, right? In all those metrics. But I also want to be profitable, right? I don't just want to waste my money and spend it. So you're kind of at that point of trying to be profitable, but also trying to drive, some substantial results, which we'll talk about more later. Again, this might be the most confusing thing here, or the most confusing term of this section. But again, we're going to be diving into all of this in more detail in future videos. So just be sure to keep watching. It'll likely make more sense. And of course, if you have questions, let me know. But again, maximum bid, that's a maximum amount you're willing to spend per click. The higher you're willing to spend, the more likely you're going to win the bid, right? You're going to outbid and win against everyone else you're competing with. And get more clicks and views and all that, but at the same time, it's going to be more expensive. So, and the less, other people might bid, or other advertisers, I should say, may bid more than you do, and they get more clicks and sales, but it may be unprofitable for them and more profitable for you. So it's kind of finding that balance. And we'll talk more about that, and I have some very specific strategies about this that I think you're going to find really interesting that work not just on Pinterest, but on other PPC platforms as well, that I'm really excited to share with you in future videos. Okay, so that's max bids. Impressions. This is something that trips up a lot of people, so I want to make this very clear. It's really simple. Impressions are the number of times your ad is seen. Okay. People think that impressions is the number of time your ad, the number of people who see your ad. It's not the case. It's the number of times your ad is seen. So for example, let's say that your Pinterest ad has 1,000 impressions. What does that mean? That means that your ad was seen 1,000 times. It does not mean that 1,000 people saw your ad. Because think about it this way. There could be, again, this is not likely the case, but this could happen in theory. There could be one person on Pinterest that viewed your ad 1,000 times. So you reached one person, but your impressions are 1,000. So that's just, again, to put it in perspective. That's not likely the case, but I just want to kind of use that as an example. Impressions are the number of times your ad is seen. And reach is the number of people your ad ultimately reaches, right? So reach is how many people actually you reach with your ad, and impressions are the number of times your ad is seen. Another just way to explain impressions is if you go to YouTube, right? And on any YouTube video, you can see the number of views. Views are not the number of people, it's the number of views. Another word for that is impressions. So that's the best way I can describe it. Look at any YouTube video, the number of views, that's how many impressions that video received. Same idea here with Pinterest advertising. impressions, the number of times your ad was seen. I think I made that abundantly clear, but of course, if you have questions, let me know. So that's impressions. Next is CPC, which is also known as cost per click. Okay, so there's PPC and then there's CPC. PPC is pay-per-click advertising. It's an advertising model. It's an advertising platform. So Pinterest is a PPC platform. Okay, CPC, it's not a platform. It's just the cost per click. It's how much it actually costs you to acquire a click. Cost per click. Really straightforward. So just kind of reiterate, right? You're advertising on the Pinterest PPC platform. Okay, and you've set a max bid. Let's say you're targeting a specific keyword and you tell Pinterest, hey Pinterest, I only want to spend a maximum of 15 cents per click. That's my maximum bid. So my max bid is 15 cents. And you go back into your report and then you see that your CPC, or your cost per click, is actually 12 cents. That means you're willing to spend 15 cents, but when you actually start running your advertising, you find out that you're actually spending you're getting 12 cents a click, which is really great because it's less than what you even bid, which can oftentimes happen. So sometimes when you bid 15 cents or whatever the amount is, 70 cents, $1, whenever you bid a certain amount, you can expect to likely reach that amount, but sometimes you can actually get your cost per click can be lower than your max bid. So I hope that makes sense, right? Max bid is what you're willing to spend. Cost per click, or CPC, is what you actually spend. Okay, that's the best way to, again, I know a lot of the letters are similar. It can be confusing, but hopefully this kind of simplifies it. Next, we have conversion. A lot of times when people think of conversion, they think of something religious. In this case, that is not necessarily the case. A conversion is simply a valuable action. Okay, so when someone clicks on your ad, they are taken to a specific place, right? That could be your website, that could be an Amazon or an Etsy listing, that could be a landing page, whatever it might be, right? Someone clicks on your ad and they're taken somewhere that you direct them, right? What action do you want them to take? Do you want them to buy your product on your Shopify site or on your Amazon or Etsy storefront, right? Do you want them to download an ebook? Do you want them to subscribe to your newsletter? What do you want them to do? And whatever you want them to do, right, what is ultimately valuable to you, that is a conversion, okay? So when someone purchases, that's a conversion. When somebody downloads an ebook, if that's what you want, that's a conversion. So a conversion is simply, really simple. It's any valuable action that someone takes on your, wherever it is, right, on your website, or if you have, if you're advertising for a client, their website, or another kind of landing page or something like that, okay? Just a valuable action. And a couple examples, just kind of, again, that I said before, two of the most common, specifically with Pinterest advertising, are sale, right? Someone buys on your website, that's conversion. That's a valuable action. Someone clicks, and then they, a percentage of people actually convert, meaning actually purchase your product. And then another common conversion example with Pinterest is subscribers, right? You want to grow your email list. So when someone actually opts into your email list from your Pinterest advertising, that's also a conversion, specifically a subscriber conversion. Again, it's any valuable action that you want someone to take after clicking on your ad, okay? And then lastly, we have CPA, cost per acquisition. Also, I've heard some advertisers refer to this as cost per action, which are kind of the same way. So acquisition is a very fancy word. I don't know why they use this. They're overcomplicating it, but acquisition you can think of, acquire, right? When you acquire something. So I could literally reach down to this table and I could acquire something. So I just acquire this little this baggie here. So cost per acquisition is the cost it takes to acquire something, something of value. So acquisition, again, is another word for conversion. Basically, it's a valuable action, right? Acquisition action. So cost per acquisition. This is how much it costs you, for example, to make one purchase. This is the cost it takes to get one email subscriber, the cost to get another email download, to get someone to download your ebook, I should say. So cost per acquisition is just how much it costs you to acquire. So you have cost per click. That's how much it costs you to get a click. Cost per acquisition is how much it costs you to get a valuable action, meaning to get a purchase, to get an email subscriber, to get an ebook download, or whatever it might be. So cost per acquisition, right, versus cost per click. Cost per click is just cost per click. Cost per acquisition could be cost per sale, cost per subscriber, cost per whatever, fill in the blank. Acquisition, kind of trade those words in. It's whatever is valuable specifically to your business and your business objectives, which is actually what we're going to be covering in the next video, which I'm really excited about. Very, very important. So hopefully this kind of demystified and clarified some of these seemingly confusing terms that are not just used for Pinterest advertising, but are also used for digital advertising overall. So this is going to help you in all of your online marketing and online advertising efforts. And of course, if you have any questions, let me know in the Q&A section. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the next video.